My name is Rusper Patel. I first met Wong in the UK around about 1988, and then after I graduated I came to Hong Kong and I started learning from him in 1991. When I was learning Wing Chun in England during my college years, I didn't think of going to Hong Kong to learn. I never had that idea. But one of my classmates at the college, they did their year's experience, their internship in Hong Kong, and they came back with some stories, and I thought, that sounds interesting. Maybe I can work in Hong Kong as well. And then Sifu came to England to give a seminar. He brought Cliff Ao Young with him, and he also brought a guy called Attilio Real, a German student. He's a model, an actor, and also a Wing Chun Sifu. And I got intrigued. I thought, a foreigner can live in Hong Kong for some years and study and learn Wing Chun. That's interesting. So towards the end of my studies, I applied for various jobs in England and in Hong Kong. So I came with a job, so I could live for a year or two here. And I also wanted to train under Sifu. And the reason for that was, in England, most of the guys are big, right? And I'm quite small. So I always felt there was something lacking in my training, and I wanted to learn from a Sifu who could understand what it's like to be small. And Wong had this confidence and charisma about him. Everybody, was listening to what he said. I thought I should learn more from this guy. So that's why I sort of found myself in Hong Kong learning from him. Okay, when I first arrived in Hong Kong, actually Sifu went away to Europe for some seminars. So the school was being looked after by Chiang Kin-man. And he was, you could say, the assistant instructor most of the time in the early years. But he couldn't also come to the school every time. So people like Ao Young were helping the junior students, if you like. If you called me a junior student, he was helping me or training with me. Ah Chung was there. But there were not many other students at that time. So I was feeling a little bit worried. I thought the school doesn't have too many students. And that situation continued until a group of foreign students came in the winter. They usually come when it's cooler, around November time. So tons of guys from Germany came, and then the training started to heat up and get quite exciting. We had a good exchange because they were big guys. Big and quite experienced, you could say as well. So they gave me a good hiding, and I learned quite a lot from the exchanges with them, because the training style in Hong Kong is a little bit different to the UK. There wasn't that much formal instruction being done at that time. When Sifu came back, he would show us basic techniques, and then he'd let us practice it with the various students. And if we did well, he would show us a bit more. If we were struggling, he would interrupt and correct us and let us practice harder. At some point, I can't quite remember when, whether it was 1991 or a couple of years later, Sifu introduced me to Young Im Kung, and he was teaching at the weekends on Saturday and Sunday. So Sifu thought it would be good for me to go there. They had a lot more regular students, and they were a bit more. They used to practice a bit of free fighting as well. So occasionally they'd put on the gloves and have a bit of sparring. But generally it was okay. We could handle it. It wasn't that bad. I went there by myself. I went there with some of the German students as well when they came. So my training partners increased like that. Of course, Philip came at some point in time. I think 92 or 93. Philip came to Hong Kong, and he joined the class and started learning with us. And we used to train both inside the class and outside the class. And various foreigners also stayed for up to a year, I'd say, in some cases. There was Jason Hancock, he stayed for quite a while. Skender stayed for quite a while. And some of David Peterson's students came to live in Hong Kong for more than a year, I would say. They were working and studying as well. Samantha Butler, who's now I think working for RTHK, she was training with us as well at some point. These people came throughout the years I was learning at the school. Most of the time in class, you would think he's not paying attention, right? He'll be reading the paper or looking at the TV, some Chinese soap opera, and you'd think, oh, he's got no interest in me at all. But he'd be watching from the corner of his eye, and he liked to practice English with me. So he'd get his dictionary out, which was falling to pieces. He'd open it up, and he'd say, you know, point to some word and say, how do you say such and such a word? And maybe sometimes it's a word I've never heard of. His English wasn't that bad, to be honest. I mean, we could communicate. If it was getting complicated, he would wait for somebody else to come. Like, usually Cliff would do a lot of translation, Changkin Man. Most of the Sihing spoke English, actually, to some extent. There were some, I can't remember the names now, who were like American-born Chinese, ABCs. They were really fluent. So that wasn't a problem. Language wasn't a problem. Made us coffee every day, of course. That was a very important part of the lesson. And he also used to ask me to write the faxes for him. In those days, there was no email, no proper email service. So he used to write faxes to his students overseas. They arranged his seminars, or they were coming here. And I would draft those out for him, and then he would send them off. A few days later, we'd get the reply and write some other reply for him. I know Sifu liked a good bottle of wine. I think everybody knows he was an avid wine connoisseur, you could say. So when people visited from overseas, they would bring, you know, a very expensive bottle for him, and he'd be quite pleased. So one time I had something to celebrate, so I thought I would share my good fortune with Sifu. I wasn't a very rich guy. I went to the shop and I checked the wine. I asked the guy, what's a good bottle of wine? This is my budget. He gave me this American bottle, which Sifu had mentioned, I think. I think he'd mentioned that name, that's why I remembered it. So I bought it, and I proudly gave it to Sifu at that occasion. And he looked at it and said, if this was French, it'd be much better. So anyway, he drank it and he enjoyed it, but I was a little bit put out by that statement. But maybe he meant well, I don't know. I never had chance to chisao with Sifu except on 2 occasions. The first time was when I met him in England. So, but the seminar was really a seminar. He was talking, we might practice the odd action. He would teach us something, we'd go off and practice. But I thought, I've come all this way, I must see what this guy feels like. So I went up to him and I said, can we do a little bit of chisao? Huh? So we just did a bit of, just rolling, punsao type thing. And that was it. Everybody was taking their pictures and wow, wow, like that. It was nothing special. And then I never touched hands with him like that for many years. And then Japanese film crew came to the school. And they asked me they wanted to film him doing some chisao. So they asked me to do it with him, so I thought, what should I do, because I didn't want to, he's an old guy, right? I was a young guy at that time. So I said, what should I do? They said, just do the basic. So I just did the basic action, and Sifu pulled me a little bit, pushed me a little bit. Actually, I thought he was going to gas out at the time, but I just did it nice and gently. And then again, when we finished, everybody asked me, oh, how was it? What did he do? Was it this, like that? Because it was quite rare occurrence for that to happen. So it was nothing special. I mean, he wasn't using any qigong or any secret techniques. He was quite enjoyable. And then somebody asked him, why did you choose Rusper to do the demonstration? And he said, because he's short. When he was teaching or explaining things, people would ask him about different styles of Kung Fu. And we talk, I think the discussion went to animal styles of Kung Fu. And he used to joke that, Wing Chun is a human style of Kung Fu. The way he described techniques and actions and the Wing Chun ability, he did not make it sound like we had to be supermen or we were indestructible or superhuman. He explained in a very realistic way. He said, if you are fighting with another guy, there's a good chance the other guy is going to hit you and you're going to hit him. So you have to have a realistic expectation of what is going to happen. You can't imagine you're going to learn Wing Chun from him or anybody else and you're going to become indestructible. So he used a lot of words like that. So, but that was the gist of what he was saying. And that's what I liked most about him. He was very realistic and he was teaching in a very human-like manner, down-to-earth manner.